Welcome to the Ebbs of History, the show where we dive into the strangest, wildest, and sometimes downright creepiest stories the past has to offer. From dancing plagues to pirate queens, we'll laugh, we'll gasp, but most importantly, we will learn how history is way cooler than your textbook ever told you.
We're your history-loving hosts, Zoe,
Gavin,
And I'm Jason, and in every episode the three of us will take a quick trip through time, then see what lessons we can still learn today. This is the Ebbs of History. All right, how is everybody doing today?
doing pretty good.
doing A-OK.
Guys having a good winter break?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm doing absolutely nothing. It's pretty great.
Isn't that great? I love that.
Yeah. It's nice to just have a break every once in a while.
Yes, it is.
My writing hand is finally getting a break because in my English class, we just constantly handwrite. So now it's been like a solid week of break, and my
Your hand is
feels
back
great.
to normal.
Yeah, it feels great.
Mm.
Because I wrote 4 essays for my final before winter
Oof.
break,
Oof.
so it needed a break.
Playing lots of video games, Gavin?
Yep.
Yep,
Got some new games for Christmas.
that's right. All right, in our last episode, Gavin asked a question about how many people were in Napoleon's hunting party, and I said that I didn't know. Well, I did some research and found that some accounts say hundreds of people were in the party. This kind of goes to what we talked about during the historiography segment. There were many accounts, some primary, some secondary, but it's probably safe to say that there were a few hundred, maybe 200. So 1 to 3,000 rabbits for 200 people to hunt.
That's like the one gorilla versus 100 humans.
All right, what if your history teacher told you that a country once declared war on birds and lost?
Sounds pretty stupid to me. Would you lose against a bunch of birds?
Yeah.
Yep, actual soldiers, real machine guns, and thousands of giant, derpy-faced, feathered opponents. Today, we're talking about one of the strangest military campaigns ever, the Great Emu War.
I love this topic.
This sounds very fun.
So, Zoe, you said earlier that you knew a little bit about something about this. How did you learn about it?
It was a YouTube channel that we watch a lot called Oversimplified, where
Oh,
he
yeah.
basically just oversimplifies a bunch of things. It's really good for test review
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, but he has a bunch of this mini war series, and that's one of them, and it was really fun.
I did not know he made an episode about that.
Yeah, I remember watching that with you, Zoe. I forgot that we had watched it, but now that you refreshed my memory. That was a while ago, though.
Oh yeah, so I kind of forgot everything.
All right, so what can you guys tell me about the Great Depression? What do you know as of right now? Like, do you know anything about the Great Depression?
The stock market just crashed.
Yep, it did. And Gavin, do you know when the stock market crashed?
I know it was some point in the early 1900s.
That's right, 1929 to be exact. So in 1929, the stock market crashed. It affected the entire world. A downturn in industrial production, which led to unemployment and widespread poverty, in addition to banks and businesses failing. So that kind of sets the stage for where we are at in the world right now during this story.
I did not know that the Great Depression was outside of America.
Oh yeah, no, it affected the entire world.
Oh.
Absolutely.
So the stock market crash in New York affected the entire world.
Yes, because a lot of the financial markets in the entire world are really closely tied into each other. So if one
Yeah.
is, struggling, the rest of them will struggle also.
But
But there was also other mitigating factors and things around the Great Depression. It wasn't just the crash of the American Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
like the thing that set it off, but there was other things going on at the time too
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
led to it.
Like when we learned about it in school, I did not have a clue until just now that it was anywhere outside of America. I thought it was just America. Like mostly in elementary school, all you learn about is America.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we're trying to change a little bit here. Is look at things from a non-American point of view. It's really hard because everything is in English. So even when I'm writing these and researching topics and things like that, it's hard to find things from a non-American perspective, or even a Western-dominated perspective, not even just America.
Yeah.
But that's what we want to change here. So here we are, Australia, 1932. The Great Depression has hit very hard. The wheat farmers in Western Australia are barely scraping by. Just as a point of information, Western Australia is a state in Australia. So
Okay.
it's kind of like, the California of Australia. The wheat farmers in Western Australia are barely scraping by. The government promises these farmers subsidies to help them out and then doesn't really follow through. So the farmers are broke, stressed, and trying not to lose everything. Many of these farmers are veterans from World War I. They'd fought bravely for their country, returned home, and been given land to farm. But the land was dry, hot, unforgiving, and just generally miserable. And then, just when it felt like things couldn't get any worse for these farmers, Mother Nature goes, "Hold my seed mix." Every year, emus migrate after breeding season.
Oh gosh, I could just imagine that in a hot, dry field, like doing wheat stuff, and then just a flock of emus just like charging. Like
Yep.
that is just the worst.
Now, have you ever seen an emu? You know what one looks like?
Yes, I do. Isn't it one of the flightless birds?
It is a flightless bird, yes.
So do I. I know what emus look like.
Well, of course. But does the audience?
What does the audience?
Picture a 6-foot tall ostrich with an attitude that can run around 30 miles an hour. That's an emu. It's a little bit smaller and scruffier of an ostrich. They're in the same family. Well, in 1932, about 20,000 of these emus moved toward the coast, right through the farmers' wheat fields in Western Australia, stomping fences, trampling wheat, and generally turning fields into feathered chaos. These new farms had water and crops, which, from an emu's perspective, is basically an all-you-can-eat buffet. How do you think you would protect your crops as a farmer against these emus that are migrating?
Get a fence.
Okay. What kind of fence?
A taller fence.
Gavin, any ideas?
I lie when the emus are charging in. I would, in defense of the crops and stuff, I would kind of just maybe push them away with my tool that I'm using, maybe a rake or something that I'm using, or like a pitchfork.
So that's on an individual basis. What about the other 19,999 emus? It's tough, right? Not an easy task.
Yeah, I do agree with the fence thing. Like that's a very good way to defend them.
Okay.
Wait, sorry. You said 20,000 emus?
Yes. At first, farmers tried shooting the emus themselves, but it turns out that emus are annoyingly hard to kill. Even though they're up to 6 feet tall, their bodies are mostly feathers and big guts. So unless you hit something vital, they just kind of keep going after you shoot them. Kind of like a demigorgon, right?
Yeah.
So the emus consumed the crops and left large gaps in the fences that were there where rabbits could get in and eat whatever the emus hadn't. So these farmers were completely decimated. Not only were they having to worry about the emus trampling everything, if the emus did leave anything, the rabbits moved in and ate it all. So they were completely decimated. Desperate, a group of frustrated ex-soldier farmers went to the Australian Minister of Defense, Sir George Pearce, and basically said, well, we used a machine gun in the war. Let's use one of those on the emus. After somebody in the government thought that this might be a good target practice for active soldiers and good PR, showing the government helping struggling farmers, even going as far as bringing a news cameraman to the battles, quote unquote, the Australian government actually agreed, but they had a few conditions. The guns being used had to be operated by real soldiers, not just random farmers. The Western Australian government, not the general Australian government, would have to pay to move the troops around. And the farmers had to provide the food and the housing and pay for the ammo that was to be used. This seems more like you can use our machine guns and soldiers, but you have to pay for and supply everything else type of deal.
Yeah. Like, if this is only in the West, I guess, yeah.
The Army sent Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery, a real decorated officer, along with 2 soldiers. Their equipment? 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammo. Their mission? Protect the crops, defeat the emus. 3 guys, 2 big guns, and way too many birds. It was man versus bird. The Great Emu War had officially begun.
The premise is just so
Silly.
silly. Like,
Yeah.
like that's the word. Like, I was trying to think of a better word, but that's the word. It's just silly.
Yeah. Just hearing the name brings a chuckle to me because it's just like you pictured a big army and then a ton of emus grazing a field.
But this war, quote unquote, is a major and 2 soldiers with 2 big guns. Military action was supposed to start in October of 1932, but rain scattered the emus all over the place. So when the ground dried out, the operation officially began near the town of Campion on November 2nd, 1932. Right away, the soldiers spotted about 50 emus. Some locals tried to herd the birds into a nice tight group so that the machine guns could just mow them down. The soldiers crept into position, loaded their guns, aimed carefully, and the emus are like, no thanks, peace. They split into small groups and sprinted in every direction. Turns out that these birds were faster than expected, and apparently they had Olympic-level zigzag skills too. The soldiers managed to kill some. Not many. Definitely not machine guns solve everything type of numbers. The rest of the emus vanished into the brush. Mission 1 failed.
Wow. These emus have some pretty good strategy. Just split into groups and run in the zigzag pattern.
That's nature. 2 days later, they get what sounds like the perfect setup. They get reports that over 1,000 emus are headed toward a dam to drink. Major Meredith sets up an ambush at the dam and waits until the birds are super close. He gives the signal. The gunner aims, opens fire, and the gun jams. Not ideal.
That is some really bad luck.
The emus scatter again faster than ever. Mission 2 failed. By the 4th day of the campaign, Army observers noted that each pack seems to have its own leader now. A big black-plumed bird which stands fully 6 feet high, keeps watch while his mates carry out their work of destruction and warns them of our approach. So Major Meredith had to come up with a new idea. And boy, did he. He decided to mount the large machine gun on a truck and chase the emus like some live-action video game. But the Australian outback terrain is rough. You guys have been to the desert. You know what it's like. It may look flat, but it is anything but. You walk up in there, and it's just bumps all over the place. Yeah. Overall, it's flat, but...
very bumpy ride. So I could tell that it would make aiming the machine gun really hard.
That's right. The truck bounces. The gunners can't aim.
Yeah.
The birds outrun the vehicle. The result? 0 emus are hit. Several soldiers are seasick, though.
They got stormtrooper aim.
That's right. Mission 3 failed.
They can't really help the stormtrooper aim if they're bumping on the back of a truck the whole time.
By November 8th, 6 days into the war, 2,500 rounds of ammunition have been fired. Reports of how many birds they've actually killed range from around 50 to just a few hundred.
Wow. That's it.
But still, nearly 20,000 birds are still roaming free. Major Meredith's official report noted that his men had suffered no casualties except to their dignity.
I'm going to add something. I feel like that if this happened today with our way better technology and faster cars even, I think we would have had a lot better chance of winning the war.
The quote-unquote war.
Yeah.
Against emus, mind you.
Meanwhile, the operation is getting roasted in the newspapers, and politicians are making jokes like, are we giving medals to the soldiers or to the emus who seem to be winning? The Australian government decides to pull the plug. The Army of 3 is withdrawn. At the end of round 1, emus 1, Australian Army 0. But the emus do not care that Parliament is embarrassed. They just keep on eating the wheat. Farmers complain again, loudly. The Premier of Western Australia backs them in Parliament. Something has to be done. So on November 12th, the Minister of Defense says, fine. And the Army goes back for round 2. Major Meredith and his machine guns return to the fields. This time, they're slightly more effective. Over the first couple of days, they kill about 40 emus. By the end of November, they're averaging roughly 100 emus a week. This operation finally stops on December 10th, 1932, and the army withdraws. One newspaper quote says of the withdrawal, "The machine gunner's dream of point-blank fire into the masses of emus was soon gone. The Emu Command had evidently ordered guerrilla tactics, and its unwieldy army soon split up into innumerable small units that made use of actual military equipment useless. A crestfallen army therefore withdrew from the combat area after about a month." In his final report, Major Meredith claims 986 emus were confirmed killed, and says another 2,500 died later from wounds. Now, that second number is very debated. It's an oddly specific and round number for him to choose. So that's under 1,000 confirmed kills out of a population of around 20,000 emus. In other words, a lot of noise was made for not much of a result.
That's just crazy. I feel like if this was such a big deal to them, they should have had a bigger army. Like, just 3 people? What are you going to do with that?
Well, when you think about it, it's kind of a PR stunt. There's, the government's making it look like they're helping the farmers that are struggling.
Yeah.
And, basically made them pay for it and gave very little resources to them. So
That's true.
the story spreads across Australia and even to the UK, where some people are horrified at the idea of trying to wipe out emus. Some conservationists protested that this war was an extermination of the rare emu, while others just find this whole thing darkly hilarious. The phrase, the Great Emu War, catches on. Historians later describe it as an attempt at mass destruction of the birds, but also a giant lesson in how not to do wildlife management.
How great. What a great war.
And the crops the army was trying to protect from the emus? Still in big trouble. So how do you think they end up fighting the emus, if not with machine guns?
I have no clue. I mean, if it's not with fences, because that's what I previously stated.
Maybe like poisoning the crops. So the
Oh.
emus would get poisoned.
The emos?
So the emus would get poisoned and weakened or killed.
Yeah, but then you're taking away the food from the farmers themselves.
Yeah.
So that might not work.
In theory.
That is technically the whole point of the war, is to preserve the food.
That's right. So they did it in a few different ways. First off, Zoe, you are 100% right. Fences. Fences are the answer. However, they can't be those old-timey fences where it's just like a log propped up by another log.
Yeah.
Emus run right through it. So they use exclusion barrier fencing. It becomes very popular during this time. What this means is that these fences were designed to keep specifically emus out instead of just being an old-timey wooden fence. So they take into account how fast the birds can run, how tall they are. It's more than just a fence. They go deeper into the ground with the stakes, and they just make them stronger. They may have to spend a little bit more money than an old wooden fence, but it's going to save their crops. So that's the big one. Second, they reinstituted a bounty system that had been in place since 1923. I see the face on Gavin just went, what? People could, on their own, kill emus and turn their bodies in for a reward.
Way to get people to kill emus.
Over 57,000 bounties were claimed over a 6-month period at this point. So basically, they told the farmers, you guys are all veterans, you all have guns, whether you're a veteran or not. You shoot them, bring them to us, we'll give you a little bit of money. Australia had officially lost a war to birds. One newspaper said the emus had won the day, and Major Meredith reportedly remarked, if we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. It's funny, but also kind of profound. Humans often think we can control nature with technology, machines, or force. But the emus were just doing what nature told them to, migrating, eating, and surviving. In the end, the farmers built better fences. The government looked for smarter ways to coexist with wildlife. Fast forward to today, the emus have kind of a PR makeover. They're one of Australia's national symbols. They're protected under environmental laws, and there are an estimated 600,000 plus wild emus across the country. The Great Emu War now shows up in books, articles, and even comedy films. Emus went from pest we tried to machine gun to icon, a tough bird that survived everything.
How long did the war last?
Well, it was supposed to start in October, and it started on November 2nd?
It
Don't ask-
ended on
It
November
ended on
2nd?
December 10th.
Don't ask me to do that
It
math.
lasted about a month.
Okay. This would be a pretty good military tactic because they would have emus go out and as kind of like a distraction, and then the army itself with all their guns, they can get a lot of shots in,
Against an actual enemy?
Yes, against like an actual army.
That is one way, yes, but I don't think Australia is being invaded too often. There's
Yeah.
nothing in Australia except for on the coasts. Like, the
That-
middle of it is one big desert and nobody lives there.
Yeah, that's true.
The
No.
emus do.
But no, it's a great point, though. Absolutely. Historiography. There are 4 main shifts in the historiography of the Great Emu War. The earliest layer is straight news reporting that happened in 1932, where the event is usually presented as a practical, if not odd, response to crop damage pest problems, not as a grand national humiliation. This shows that the war label existed very early on. By the 50s, the Emu War became something you can write about as a known oddity, a cautionary anecdote, and a bit of a rural folk tale. This is where the Emu War shifts from news to repeatable anecdote, still grounded in newspapers, but increasingly written for humor and punch. Modern academic attention is real, but thin, so writers today return to the same core evidence, the 1932 press coverage, government discussion, and the military's own reporting. Because the source base is narrow, the Emu War is unusually sensitive to repetition. Later writers often amplify whichever earlier phrasing is funniest or most vivid. A more recent interpretive trend is to treat the Emu War less as a military farce and more as a case study in wildlife adapting to human land use and the politics of rural relief during economic stress. The story becomes a vehicle for human environment history, not just a punchline.
I do feel like this was a very important lesson for worldwide on coexisting with wild animals and preservation of crops against animals,
Yes.
because people have seen it can and will happen, so they put in fences
Safeguards,
to protect.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I can bet you there was a lot less fences around farming areas than there is today
Mm-hmm.
because they weren't ready, because nothing big has happened with these animals before. And now that has, people create like cautions.
Right. So today there's invasive species that come to, different countries from other countries, and you don't see wars being waged against them. There are other mitigation things that they do. So yeah, that's an excellent point.
And also people placed in the wildlife preservation to preserve the life of all the wild animals.
Mm-hmm. The lessons we've learned today. What can we learn from this incident today, Zoe?
People think that guns can fix anything, but in reality, they actually can't. It often hurts more than helps.
That's right.
And I also have,
Specifically against animals.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I also said, just don't try to fight Mother Nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's like a tying theme.
Anything, Gavin?
There's a lot of wars where they've been disturbed or shifted by weather conditions.
Okay.
Like off of what Zoe said with the Mother Nature thing. There could be snow, which changes the outcome of the war drastically.
Well, what I wanted to bring up in a lesson that we can learn today is that media and memes shape what we remember, right? So remember, this whole thing involved just 3 soldiers and a couple of machine guns. It wasn't a huge war compared to, like actual wars.
Mm-hmm.
But newspapers at the time started calling it the Emu War. They wrote dramatic stories about emu generals leading bird troops, and the name stuck. Now, almost 100 years later, most people don't remember the farmers' economic pain or the details of the Australian land policy. You know what they do remember? Australia lost a war to emus.
Yeah.
That's kind of silly.
Right. That's a reminder for us today. Headlines and memes can be funny, but they can also oversimplify real people's struggles. When we see a wild headline, or a viral TikTok or whatever, it's worth asking, okay, but what's the full story here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we've kind of been saying, everything it has two sides.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's time for the Fun Fact Challenge. Okay, your turn. Don't forget, let me finish the question, and then you can lock in. Best of 3. Why did the farmers in Western Australia ask for military help in the first place, instead of just handling the emus on their own like before?
Locked in?
Zoe?
Because there was too many of them and they couldn't handle it on their own.
Okay, yeah. Huge numbers of emus were destroying their wheat, and they were already struggling because of the Great Depression, right? So they needed some help from their government.
Yeah. I forgot about that one.
Question 2. What were the 2 main reasons the Emu War failed, even though the army had machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammo?
Locked in.
Gavin?
The emus are just like strong, very like feathered animals, and unless you hit a vital organ, you're not really going to do any damage.
Yep. So you want to give another one?
Sure. Because there was just so many of them and they just had survival animal instincts and they just didn't know how to fight against humans. They just ran away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't stay in the big groups that they were trying to herd them into. They broke up into smaller groups, and there was only 3 soldiers, so
There is a lot of strength in numbers, and that is really shown in the Emu War with just the overwhelming amount of emus just like charging at them.
Question 3. What is the one way that the problem could have been taken care of instead of soldiers with machine guns?
Locked in. Develop fences earlier instead of just going straight in with guns.
That's partially right. Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's right. You get the point. I would rephrase it a little bit and say maybe understand the root causes beforehand and then figure out ways to fix it instead of just bringing in a big gun and shooting them all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and fences would be part of that answer.
Mm-hmm.
Very
You
good.
need to do a lot of problem solving in a weird situation like this. And you also need to expect the unexpected.
So the next time you see an emu, remember, their ancestors once won a war without firing a single shot. The Great Emu War might sound ridiculous, but it reminds us to respect nature and maybe to think twice before declaring war on wildlife. This day in history. Today is January 29th. 1845, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven is published in the Evening Mirror in New York.
Ooh.
Have you guys read that yet?
I have.
Yeah?
Not
Nevermore.
yet, but in my class right now, we have mentioned it. And my teacher, he played the Simpsons version from the Treehouse of Horrors of The Raven.
I love it. I love that.
All I can say is nevermore.
Nevermore. The Raven is a narrative poem. Its influence can still be seen today, including the Baltimore Ravens NFL team being named after this poem.
Yeah.
Their 3 mascots are Edgar, Allan, and Poe.
We did read The Telltale Heart, which I liked it. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it's a very good one.
That's a short story, right? Not
Yes.
a poem.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right. In 1919, the 18th Amendment to the Constitution is ratified. We actually talked about this in one of our more recent episodes. In the molasses flood, why did they have so much molasses?
Because the prohibition was about to start.
Because prohibition was about to be ratified. So on this day, in 1919, the 18th Amendment was ratified. The prohibition of alcohol would go into effect on January 1st the following year. Aiming to combat societal ills like poverty and abuse linked to alcohol, the temperance movement was a social movement, usually of women, that called for abstinence or moderation in the consumption of alcohol. Even though the 18th Amendment was reversed by the 20th Amendment in 1933, the temperance movement laid the groundwork for women's suffrage and the ratification of the 19th Amendment giving women the right to vote. Yeah.
That's a pretty good one.
And finally, in 1936, this one is a good one for this family specifically. The first members of the Baseball Hall of Fame are elected on this day in 1936. In preparation for what was thought to be the upcoming 100th anniversary of baseball, owners decided to build a museum dedicated to baseball. A private company in Cooperstown, New York, wanted to boost their post-Depression economy. In an effort to get the museum built in Cooperstown, they made up a story that Civil War veteran Abner Doubleday had invented baseball in Cooperstown. This was a complete lie. But eager to capitalize on the story and bring attention to the new museum, baseball agreed to build the museum in Cooperstown. As part of the opening, the Baseball Writers of America inducted 5 players into the Hall of Fame. Can you guys name one of the 5 each?
And when was this again?
1936. Just think about anybody from old baseball.
Babe Ruth?
Babe Ruth was one of
I
them.
was gonna say that.
Jackie Robinson?
Nope, he
No.
came a little bit later.
Oh.
Lou Gehrig?
Nope, he came a little bit later. No, not Lou Gehrig.
Ooh.
I got one, though.
Go for it.
Oh, it was Babe Ruth.
Oh,
the one I
yes,
already
you did get
mentioned.
Oh.
So there was Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Honus Wagner, Christy Mathewson, and Walter Johnson.
I would not have gotten that.
I got the low-hanging fruit there.
You got the low-hanging fruit, that is for sure.
That's
So
definitely the easiest one to get.
this is a special one for our family because we just love baseball, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Big baseball family.
Missing it right now.
Yes, we are. That's it for this episode. Thanks for traveling through time with us on the Ebbs of History. If you like today's story, share it with a teacher, a friend, or your family on Instagram at Ebbs of History. If you have any show ideas, corrections, or questions, you can contact us at questions@ebbsofhistory.com.
Signing off, this has been your co-hosts, Zoe,
Gavin.
And me, Jason, reminding you that history isn't just about dates and battles. It's about people, curiosity, and the weird, wonderful choices that shaped our world. Until next time, keep wondering, laughing, and learning through the ebbs of history.